Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're tackling crucial conversations.
Right.
That book by Kerry Patterson, Joseph Grenny, Ron McMillan, and Al Switzler.
No.
You know the ones we're talking about? Those conversations that make your palms sweat, your heart race,
Yeah.
where the stakes are high,
Right.
opinions clash, and emotions run hotter than a laptop playing a video game in the summer sun.
Oh, yeah.
We're going beyond just summarizing the book. We'll be extracting key insights and figuring out how to actually use this stuff in your daily life.
Exactly. It's one thing to understand the concepts,
Right.
but it's another thing entirely to apply them when you're in the thick of it.
Right. So let's start with one of the most compelling ideas from the book.
Okay.
The sheer impact these conversations have.
Yeah.
The authors don't mess around. They come right out and say,
Right.
relationships are the priority of life.
And conversations are the crucial element in profound caring of relationships. That's a pretty bold statement.
It is.
What do you make of that?
It's bold, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it highlights how important communication is to our well-being. Think about it.
Yeah.
Our relationships with partners, family, friends, colleagues.
Yeah.
They all depend on our ability to navigate those crucial moments when opinions differ, stakes are high, and emotions are strong.
And it's not just about our personal lives, right?
No.
The book talks about how crucial conversations impact everything from team dynamics and organizational success to even societal issues.
Absolutely. The book cites research showing that unresolved conflicts can have serious consequences.
Oh, wow.
For example,
Yeah.
one study found that unresolved workplace conflicts can lead to decreased productivity, increased absenteeism,
Oh, wow.
and even higher healthcare costs.
Wow. So it's not just about hurt feelings or bruised egos.
Yeah.
We're talking about real, tangible impacts on our health, our work, and even our society.
Exactly, which is why the book argues that we need to move beyond our natural fight-or-flight response when things get heated.
Because, let's be honest, when the pressure's on, most of us either clam up completely or go into attack mode. It's like our brains short circuit.
Right.
Yeah.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
We're wired for survival.
Yeah.
And those primal instincts kick in when we feel threatened.
Right.
But the book offers a different approach.
Okay.
It's about creating a dialogue where everyone feels safe to share their perspective and work towards a shared understanding.
Okay, so instead of seeing it as a battle to be won, it's more about creating a space for collaboration and mutual respect.
Precisely. And the book emphasizes two key elements for creating that safe space.
Okay.
Mutual purpose and mutual respect.
Let's break those down.
Okay.
Mutual purpose first.
Okay.
What exactly does that mean?
Mutual purpose is about finding common ground.
Right.
Even when you have different opinions or goals, there's usually some shared objective that you can both agree on.
So it's about identifying that bigger picture that unites you even in the midst of disagreement.
Exactly. And the book provides some practical tips for establishing mutual purpose.
Okay.
For example, if you're stuck in a conflict, ask yourself and the other person,
Okay.
what do we both want here?
Yeah.
What's the best outcome for everyone involved?
Right.
Sometimes simply clarifying the shared objective can help diffuse tension
Yeah.
and create a more collaborative atmosphere.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So once you've established that shared goal,
Right.
how do you maintain mutual respect even when things get heated?
Mutual respect is about treating each other with dignity and consideration,
Okay.
even when you disagree. It's about recognizing that everyone has their own valid perspective
Right.
and that those perspectives deserve to be heard.
So it's about separating the person from the problem.
Exactly.
You can disagree with someone's ideas without attacking their character.
Exactly. And the book emphasizes the importance of using respectful language, avoiding personal attacks, and actively listening to the other person's point of view.
This all sounds great in theory.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us struggle to put these principles into practice,
Sure.
especially when we're in the heat of the moment.
Right.
It's easy to get caught up in our own emotions and react in ways that we later regret.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It takes conscious effort and practice to stay grounded in mutual purpose and mutual respect when the pressure's on.
Right.
That's why the book introduces a set of skills to help us navigate those crucial moments.
Okay, let's dive into some of those skills.
Okay.
What are some of the key takeaways that we can start using today?
One of the most fundamental skills is start with heart.
Okay.
This principle emphasizes the importance of being clear about what you really want from the conversation and why it matters.
So before you even start talking, take a moment to check in with yourself.
Yeah.
What's your ultimate goal? What do you hope to achieve?
And perhaps most importantly, what do you want for the relationship?
Exactly. It's easy to get sidetracked by wanting to be right or prove a point. But if you can focus on what truly matters,
Yeah.
it can completely change how you approach the conversation.
It's like taking a step back from the battlefield and remembering why you're fighting in the first place.
Precisely. And this shift in mindset can have a profound impact on the outcome of the conversation.
This reminds me of a situation I had recently with a colleague.
Oh.
We were working on a project together, and we had very different ideas about how to approach it.
Okay.
I was getting really frustrated because I felt like my ideas were being dismissed.
That sounds familiar. It's easy to get caught up in that win-lose mentality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then I remembered the principle of start with heart.
Okay.
I realized that what I really wanted was for the project to be successful and for our working relationship to remain strong.
Right.
So instead of trying to force my ideas on my colleague,
I took a step back and really listened to his perspective.
that's a great example of applying the principle in a real-life situation.
Yeah.
What happened next?
Well, once I shifted my focus from winning the argument to finding a solution that worked for both of us, we were able to have a much more productive conversation.
Okay.
We started brainstorming ideas together, and we actually came up with a solution that was even better than either of our original ideas.
That's fantastic. It shows how powerful it can be to shift your mindset from competition to collaboration.
It really does. And it all started with taking a moment to check in with my heart and clarify what I truly wanted.
That's the power of start with heart.
Yeah.
It lays the foundation for all the other skills and principles that the book introduces.
So start with heart is about getting clear on your intentions and motivations.
Yes.
And what about actually navigating those tough conversations when emotions are running high?
That's where the principle of learn to look comes in.
Okay.
It's about paying attention to both the content of the conversation,
Right.
the conditions under which it's happening.
So it's about being aware of both what's being said and how it's being said.
Exactly. The book emphasizes the importance of noticing when a conversation turns crucial.
Okay.
These are the moments when the stakes get higher,
Yeah.
opinions diverge,
Right.
and emotions intensify.
So we need to be able to recognize those warning signs that signal a crucial conversation is brewing.
Absolutely. The book provides several clues to look out for.
Okay.
For example,
Yeah.
you might notice your heart rate increasing,
Mm-hmm.
your palms sweating, or your breathing becoming shallow.
Right.
You might also observe changes in the other person's body language,
Mm-hmm.
like crossed arms, a furrowed brow, or a tense jaw.
So it's about tuning into both our own physical sensations and the nonverbal cues from the other person.
Precisely. And once you've recognized that a conversation has turned crucial,
Right.
the next step is to make it safe.
Okay.
This principle is all about creating an environment where everyone feels comfortable sharing their perspective without fear of judgment or retaliation.
So it's about building trust and psychological safety.
Exactly. And the book provides several techniques for making it safe.
Okay.
One of the most powerful is the simple act of apologizing.
Oh,
If you've done something to damage the relationship
right.
or contribute to the conflict, a sincere apology can go a long way in restoring trust.
An apology. It sounds so simple, but you're right. It can be incredibly effective in diffusing tension and creating a more positive atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, another key technique for making it safe is contrasting.
Okay.
This involves clarifying what you do and don't mean when your words or actions have been misinterpreted.
So it's about preventing misunderstandings and ensuring that your message is being received as intended.
Exactly. For example,
Yeah.
if you're giving feedback to someone and they start to get defensive,
Uh-huh.
you might use contrasting to say, I'm not saying you're incompetent. I just think this particular approach could be improved.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Contrasting helps us separate your intent from the impact of your words.
precisely. And it can be a powerful tool for rebuilding safety and keeping the conversation on track.
So we talked about start with heart,
Mhm.
learn to look,
Yes.
and make it safe.
Right.
Those are three pretty solid principles for approaching crucial conversations.
What's next? The next principle is master my stories.
Okay.
This is all about managing your internal dialogue and preventing your emotions from hijacking the conversation.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Our stories, those internal narratives that can often sabotage our best intentions.
Exactly. The book emphasizes that our emotions are not simply reactions to events,
Okay.
but rather products of the stories we tell ourselves about those events.
So it's not the event itself that triggers our emotions, but our interpretation of the event.
Precisely. And those interpretations are often based on assumptions, beliefs, and past experiences that may or may not be accurate.
So we need to become aware of those stories and learn to challenge them when they're not serving us.
Absolutely. The book provides a helpful framework for understanding how our stories drive our emotions.
Okay.
It's called the path to action.
Okay. Break that down for me.
Sure.
Path to action, what does that entail?
The path to action starts with an observation.
Okay.
We see or hear something that triggers a thought or a story in our minds.
So it's the initial input,
Right.
raw data that we're taking in.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then we tell ourselves a story about that observation.
Okay.
We interpret the meaning, assign motives,
Right.
and make judgments.
So we're adding our own spin, our own interpretation to the raw data.
Precisely. And that story triggers an emotion.
Okay.
We feel angry, sad, frustrated,
Right.
or whatever emotion the story evokes.
So the emotion is not a direct response to the event,
Right.
but rather a response to our story about the event.
Exactly. And finally, that emotion drives our actions. We say or do something based on the emotion we're feeling.
So the path to action is observation, story, emotion, action.
Precisely. And the key to mastering my stories
Right.
is to interrupt that path before it leads us down a destructive road.
So how do we do that?
Yeah.
How do we break free from those stories that are hijacking our emotions?
The book suggests asking yourself a series of questions to challenge those stories.
Okay.
First, what evidence do I have to support this story?
Mm-hmm.
Is it based on facts or assumptions?
Okay.
Second, is there another possible explanation that fits the facts just as well?
Okay.
And third, am I pretending not to notice my role in the problem?
Those are powerful questions.
Yeah,
Asking those could definitely help me gain a more objective perspective.
they can.
Yeah.
The book also highlights 3 clever stories
Okay.
that often get us into trouble.
Okay.
Victim, villain,
Okay.
and helpless stories.
Okay. Tell us about those
Okay.
victim, villain, and helpless stories.
Yeah.
Why are they so problematic?
Victim stories make us feel like we're innocent sufferers, while others are to blame.
Oh.
Villain stories paint others as bad and wrong,
Right.
while we're righteous and good.
Right.
And helpless stories convince us that there's nothing we can do to change this situation.
So they're all about distorting reality and avoiding responsibility.
Exactly. When you catch yourself telling these stories, it's a sign that you need to re-examine your perspective and get back to the facts.
So mastering our stories is about becoming more aware of our internal dialogue,
Yes.
challenging our assumptions, and taking ownership of our actions.
Precisely. It's about becoming the author of our own emotions, rather than being controlled by them.
This is all incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how these principles can really make a difference in how we approach those crucial conversations.
They can.
Yeah.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Right.
There's so much more to explore.
Well, we'll have to save that for next time. We'll pick up where we left off in the next part of our deep dive into crucial conversations.
Okay.
But for now, I encourage you to reflect on what we've discussed today.
Mm-hmm.
Think about a recent conversation that didn't go as well as you'd hoped.
Yeah.
How might these principles have helped you navigate that situation differently?
That's a great exercise. And we'll be back soon with more tools and techniques to help you master those crucial moments.
Okay.
Until then, stay curious and keep those conversations flowing.
Awesome.
Yeah. Welcome back to our deep dive into crucial conversations. Remember where we left off? We were talking about mastering my stories and how our emotions are often driven by the narratives we create in our heads.
Right. And how those stories aren't always accurate or helpful, especially when we're in the midst of a crucial conversation.
Exactly. So the challenge is to become aware of those stories and learn to separate facts from interpretations,
Because let's be honest, sometimes our interpretations can be a little dramatic.
to say the least. But the good news is that we can train ourselves to become more objective in how we view these situations.
So instead of getting swept away by our emotional reactions, we can pause and ask ourselves, is this story really true? Is there another way to look at this?
Precisely. And the book provides some helpful tools for challenging those unhelpful stories. One of my favorites is the ABC technique.
ABC. Tell me more. I love a good acronym.
It stands for Activating Event Beliefs, Consequences.
Sure.
So when you find yourself feeling a strong emotion during a conversation, take a moment to identify the activating event, the belief that triggered the emotion. and the consequences of that belief.
Okay, let's break that down. Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's say you're having a conversation with your partner about household chores, and they make a comment that triggers a feeling of anger.
Ah, yes, a classic crucial conversation scenario.
The activating event might be your partner saying, "You never help out around here."
Ouch. That's definitely activating.
The belief might be, "They don't appreciate all the things I do." And the consequence might be feeling resentful and withdrawing from the conversation.
So by identifying the ABCs, we can start to see how our beliefs are shaping our emotions and our actions.
Exactly. And once we've identified those beliefs, we can start to challenge them. Are they really true? Are they based on facts or assumptions? Is there another way to interpret the situation?
That's so helpful. I can see how this technique could help me to stay more grounded in reality and less reactive to my emotions.
It's a powerful tool, and it's just one of many techniques that the book provides for mastering our stories.
Okay, so we've learned to start with heart, learn to look, make it safe, and master my stories. What's the next crucial skill we need to develop?
The next principle is state my path. This is about effectively communicating your message, especially when you're sharing tough feedback or sensitive information.
Okay, so this is about expressing ourselves clearly and assertively without triggering defensiveness or resistance.
Exactly. And the book provides a helpful acronym to guide us through this process, STATE. It stands for Share, Tell, Ask, Talk, Encourage.
Share, tell, ask, talk, encourage. Okay, let's unpack that. What does each step involve?
The first step, share, is about starting with facts. Present the objective information that supports your point of view, without jumping to conclusions or interpretations.
So start with the observable evidence, the things that everyone can agree on.
Exactly. Then tell your story. Explain how you arrived at your conclusion based on the facts you've shared. This is where you connect the dots between the evidence and your perspective.
So you're providing context and helping the other person understand your point of view.
Precisely. Then ask for others' paths. Invite them to share their facts, stories, and feelings. This demonstrates your willingness to listen and consider alternative perspectives.
So it's about creating a two-way dialogue, not just a one-sided lecture.
Exactly. Then talk tentatively. Present your views as possibilities, not absolute truths. This helps to maintain safety and encourage open discussion.
So it's about being assertive but not dogmatic.
Right? And finally, encourage testing. Invite others to challenge your views, ask questions, and express dissenting opinions. This shows that you're confident in your perspective, but also open to learning and growing.
So it's about embracing healthy debate and recognizing that you don't have all the answers.
Precisely. The State My Path technique provides a clear framework for communicating effectively in crucial conversations.
This is incredibly helpful. I'm starting to see how all these principles fit together to create a comprehensive approach to navigating these challenging situations.
They do. And the next principle, explore others' paths, is all about becoming a skilled listener.
Listening seems so basic, but I think it's one of the most overlooked skills in communication.
You're absolutely right. We often focus so much on what we're going to say
Yeah.
that we forget to truly listen to the other person.
So how do we become better listeners, especially in those high-stakes conversations where our emotions are running high?
The book emphasizes the importance of active listening. This involves going beyond simply hearing the words and truly seeking to understand the other person's perspective.
So it's about being present, engaged, and genuinely curious about what the other person has to say.
Exactly. And the book provides several techniques for enhancing our active listening skills.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
One technique is asking clarifying questions. This helps to ensure that you're understanding the other person's message accurately.
So instead of assuming we know what they mean, we ask questions to confirm our understanding.
Precisely. Another technique is paraphrasing. This involves summarizing what you've heard in your own words to demonstrate that you're paying attention and trying to grasp their perspective.
So it's like holding up a mirror to their thoughts and feelings to make sure you're seeing them clearly.
Exactly. And paraphrasing can also help to de-escalate conflict by showing the other person that you're making an effort to understand them.
I can see how that would be helpful. It shows that you're not just waiting for your turn to talk, but that you're genuinely invested in the conversation.
Absolutely. Another powerful listening technique is mirroring. This involves reflecting back the emotions you're observing in the other person.
So if they seem frustrated, you might say, "You sound really frustrated right now."
Exactly. Mirroring helps to validate their emotions and create a sense of empathy.
It shows that you're not just hearing their words, but that you're also attuned to their emotional state.
Precisely. And finally, the book introduces a more advanced listening technique called priming.
Priming. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Priming involves offering a tentative interpretation of what you're hearing to help the other person explore their thoughts and feelings more deeply.
So if they're hesitant to share their true feelings, you might prime by saying, "It sounds like you're concerned about."
Exactly. Priming can help to unlock deeper levels of understanding and encourage more open communication.
These listening techniques are incredibly valuable. I think we could all benefit from incorporating them into our conversations.
I agree. And remember, effective listening is not just about being quiet and letting the other person talk. It's about actively engaging with their message, seeking clarification, reflecting emotions, and encouraging deeper exploration.
So it's about creating a collaborative process of understanding, not just a passive act of receiving information.
Precisely. And when we truly listen to each other, we create the foundation for trust, connection, and mutual respect.
This has been so insightful. I'm starting to feel like I have a whole new toolkit for navigating those crucial conversations.
That's great to hear. And we've still got one more principle to cover, move to action, but we'll save that for the final part of our deep dive.
I can't wait to hear more about that. But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned about active listening. How can we apply these techniques in our daily lives? What are some specific situations where we can practice these skills?
Those are great questions to ponder, and we'll be back soon with more insights and strategies to help you master those crucial moments. Until then, keep listening, keep learning, and keep those conversations flowing.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into crucial conversations. It's been quite a journey exploring the nuances of these high-stakes dialogues.
It really has. We've covered a lot of ground, from understanding the impact of crucial conversations to developing essential skills like starting with heart and mastering our stories.
Right, and in this final part, I'd love to shift our focus to the practical application of these principles. You know, those moments when we're in the thick of it and our emotions are threatening to take over.
Absolutely. Because let's be real, knowing the theory is one thing, but putting it into practice when the pressure's on is a whole other ballgame.
Exactly. So let's talk about those moments when we're on the receiving end of a crucial conversation and we're feeling attacked or criticized. How do we stay grounded and avoid reacting defensively?
That's a crucial skill. And it all starts with remembering that our emotions are not always reliable guides in these situations.
Because as we've discussed, our emotions are often driven by the stories we tell ourselves about the situation.
Precisely. So the first step is to become aware of those stories and challenge their validity. Ask yourself, is this story really true? Is there another way to look at this?
Right, because sometimes our interpretations can be a bit skewed by our own insecurities or past experiences.
Absolutely. So it's essential to create some space between the trigger and your reaction. Take a deep breath and try to observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
So it's about creating a pause, a moment of mindfulness, to interrupt that automatic emotional response.
Exactly. And during that pause, you can start to examine the evidence. What are the facts of the situation? What are the assumptions you're making? Is there another possible explanation that you haven't considered?
That makes sense. It's about shifting from a reactive mode to a more reflective and intentional mode.
Precisely. And the book offers a helpful technique for examining those stories. It's called the worst case, best case, most likely scenario.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this technique.
It's a simple but powerful way to challenge your assumptions and broaden your perspective. When you find yourself feeling anxious or overwhelmed by a crucial conversation, take a moment to consider the worst possible outcome, the best possible outcome, and the most likely outcome.
So it's about playing out different scenarios in your mind to see the situation from multiple angles.
Exactly, and often you'll find that the worst case scenario is highly unlikely, and the most likely scenario is far less daunting than you initially imagined.
That makes sense. It's about putting things into perspective and calming those catastrophic thoughts that can sometimes spiral out of control.
Precisely. And once you've calmed those anxieties, you can approach the conversation with a clearer head and a more open mind.
This is so helpful. I can see how this technique could be incredibly valuable in managing those pre-conversation jitters.
It's a great tool to have in your back pocket. Now, another challenge that often comes up in crucial conversations is dealing with silence.
Silence. Yes, that awkward moment when the conversation comes to a screeching halt and no one knows what to say next.
It can be incredibly uncomfortable. But the book argues that silence can actually be a powerful tool in these situations.
Really? How so?
Well, silence often signals that something important is happening. It could be that the other person is processing their thoughts, gathering the courage to speak, or simply needing a moment to collect themselves.
So instead of trying to fill the silence with nervous chatter, we should embrace it as an opportunity for reflection and deeper understanding.
Exactly. And the book suggests that we can use silence strategically to encourage the other person to open up. For example, instead of immediately responding to their statement, try pausing for a few seconds and simply maintaining eye contact.
So it's about creating a space for them to elaborate or share their perspective more fully.
Precisely. And often you'll find that the silence prompts them to say something they might not have otherwise shared.
That's fascinating. It's like silence becomes an invitation for deeper connection and authenticity.
Exactly. Now, another challenging aspect of crucial conversations is dealing with people who refuse to engage in dialogue. Those individuals who shut down, get defensive, or try to control the conversation.
Oh yes, we've all encountered those individuals. It can be incredibly frustrating. What are some strategies for breaking through those barriers?
The book emphasizes the importance of maintaining a calm and respectful demeanor, even when the other person is being difficult. Remember that your goal is to create a safe space for dialogue, not to win an argument or prove a point.
Right. It's about staying focused on the bigger picture, the relationship, and the desired outcome.
Exactly. And one technique that can be helpful in these situations is mirroring. It's similar to the listening technique we discussed earlier, but with a slightly different focus.
So instead of mirroring their emotions, we're mirroring their behavior.
Not exactly. It's more about reflecting back their words and tone in a neutral and non-judgmental way.
So if they say something sarcastic or aggressive, we simply repeat their words back to them calmly.
Precisely. It's a way of acknowledging their perspective without engaging in the emotional drama.
And often that simple act of reflection can help to de-escalate the situation.
Exactly, because it shows that you're listening and that you're not trying to dismiss or invalidate their feelings.
That's a great tip. I'm definitely going to try that the next time I encounter someone who's resisting dialogue.
I think you'll find it helpful.
Yeah.
Now, another technique that can be effective in these situations is asking open-ended questions. Questions that can't be answered with a simple yes or no.
So instead of asking, "Are you upset?" we might ask, "What's going on for you right now?"
Exactly. Open-ended questions invite the other person to elaborate and share their perspective more fully.
And it shifts the focus from confrontation to curiosity.
Precisely, and curiosity is a powerful antidote to defensiveness.
These are all incredibly valuable insights. I'm starting to feel much more confident in my ability to navigate those crucial conversations.
That's wonderful to hear, and remember that mastering these skills takes time and practice. Be patient with yourself and celebrate your progress along the way.
Well said. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. As we wrap up this deep dive into crucial conversations, I want to thank you for sharing your expertise and insights.
It's been my pleasure, and I hope our listeners have found this exploration valuable.
I'm sure they have. And remember, folks, crucial conversations are an inevitable part of life, but they don't have to be dreaded or feared. With the right tools and mindset, we can transform these challenging dialogues into opportunities for growth, connection, and positive change.
Absolutely. So embrace those crucial moments and remember the power of dialogue to create a more harmonious and fulfilling life.
Beautifully said. And with that, we'll bid you farewell until our next deep dive. Keep those conversations flowing, and remember, the world needs your